So I just finished second playing Melodious at an OTS tournament, having only lost to Yugioh Fiendsmith. I won all of my matchups against Tenpai and against Snake Eyes Fiendsmith. Since now I'm going to show you my build so you guys can start seeing success with this deck as well. So standard, I'm playing the 9 1-card starters, 3 Ostinato, 3 first movement solo, and 3 refrain. A lot of the ratios will be somewhat similar to what you see online, and that's basically because this deck has been mostly solved with a few exceptions here and there. I am playing the 3 couplet and the 1 search target in Concerto, the standard 2 soprano. I am maxing out in extenders, playing 3 sonata and 1 canon. So you'll see a lot of builds that cut these 2 entirely and just play the 2 sonata. I feel as though playing 4 is somewhat of the optimal number, because there's a lot of situations where your Baja gets negated by an Imperm or Vela, and you need some kind of follow-up. And the best way to do that is with an extender. So special summoning out your sonata or your canon means that you can then make the link to and start playing from there. Playing 4 means that I'm more likely to see them. So I feel as if this number works. I'm also playing the the canon, because I'm playing Baguska in situations where I get debarried. Unfortunately, I'm also maxing out on bricks, so I'm playing a 1 sharpener, 1 aria, and the elegy. You won't see too many elegies being played, and that's because, like I mentioned, it is very much a brick. But with Tenpai players switching to board breakers ever since Euros, you kind of need some way to defend your board against cards like Raigeki and Black Rose Dragon. So this is worth playing as a 41 card against Tenpai, or when you suspect that you'll be playing a lot against many Tenpai players, like I did. But for the most part, I ended up siding this card against all of my other matchups. So in future, I'll probably move this to the side deck if I can find space. But for now, I'm playing it as a 41st card. Okay, and then for power spells, I'm playing 3 Prosperity. I feel as though this is a lot better than Desires, purely because it gets you your Ostinato more frequently. It does mean that you lose the Concerto draw, but I mean, you can kind of pass up on that. I am then playing 5 ways to protect myself against hand traps, which is the 1 Call by the Grave, 2 Book of Eclipse, and 2 Talents. Moving forward, I'd probably cut this down to 3. So in theory, the way the Book of the Eclipse works is that if your opponent tries to negate your Baja with an Imperm or Vela, you use the Book of Eclipse to flip your Baja face down. The effects then resolve, and you can fusion summon using face down fusion monsters. So it's the same as the way that Fluonaries players use it. It's also a good board breaker. I think I would stick to this, maybe do that in future. Might consider experimenting with Book of Moon instead, because there are situations where you flip too many of your monsters face down, or you give your opponent too many draws and using those during their turn. So I'll experiment with that to see how it goes. Talons is a very strong card, but I feel as though it clashes with the deck too much. So something, I think I only resolved this 1 game. And yeah, it was just a brick in my hand every other time, because for 1, it clashes with Prosperity, so the draw effect. And 2, taking control of your opponent's monster means that your field is clogged and you won't be able to activate first movement on Ostinato. There are times that it's very good. Like the one time I used this was against the Dynamorphia players that still directs them, which won me the game on the spot. But every other time it just kind of sat in my hand. When practicing, I used to use this a lot to look into my opponent's hand and get rid of the second hand trap. But again, you're then activating this card, assuming that they've used the hand trap already. So yeah, if it's not working out for me, I think it's a good card overall. Definitely played in everything else, but I'll probably cut this for 2 more hand traps moving forward. In terms of hand traps, I'm playing a very small amount, or I should say the bare minimum. I'm playing 3 Ash Blossom, 3 Imperm, 3 Effect Veiler, and 2 Orange Light. The 2 Orange Light is a bit weird. I was playing 3 for a while, and I feel as though Orange Light doesn't exactly get you what you want it to. It's a very good card when you're opening with Ostinato, but outside of that, you generally don't have enough resources to resolve it while still going full combo. There were times where I completely cut this from my deck completely and I played more hand traps, which I would probably replace this with Ghost Ogre. And I cut this completely, and the problem I had with that is that sometimes you do need the Orange Light to stop the Nibiru or the D-Shifter And unfortunately, that means you kind of need to play 2. And I don't know how I feel about this card. I just feel as though it's not as good as most people say it is. So I'm thinking about cutting this moving forward. I'll need to place this with a bit more. But again, in theory, it would be to stop the Nibiru and the D-Shifter. In terms of the extra deck, I am playing standard 3 Baja, 2 Schuberta, 2 Etoile, and the 1 Bloom Diva. This is just very hard for Tempai players to out. But I also don't own an SP. So if you own an SP, probably cut this for the SP. Otherwise, you can play this as a budget alternative. Then 1 Harmonist, 1 Gravity Controller in case your Baja gets negated. Not as good as you would think. Like a lot of people kind of sell this deck that if your Baja gets negated, you just make a Gravity Controller in full combo. But it doesn't exactly work the way, because Gravity Controller clashes with Harmonist, which says you can't use her effect if you summon non-Melodious. And your couplet kind of says that you need to have either no monsters or only Melodious monsters to do the search. So I feel as though Gravity Controller isn't as good as people make it out to seem. It's good in situations where you only have like a first movement on Ostinato, you get to Baja gets negated, then you can still make this and end on the Schuberta, but otherwise it's very lackluster. I'm playing 1 Moon to out Skill Drain, and then I'm playing 1 Moon and 1 Underworld Goddess. We are not playing Fiendsmith, we're just using this to make the Moon, the Goddess, because you can put up a lot of bodies on this deck pretty easily, and the Moon helps you sort of eat your opponent's board. It does come up like the one round I won against Yugioh in the best of 3 is because I was able to eat 2 of their monsters this way. I feel as though it does a bit more than Access Code Talker because you don't really have many different attributes in your extra deck. So I kind of like this. It's working for me. 1 Baguska, like I mentioned, for situations where you get deburied. In some cases, you just want to make very weird hands where you just make this and kind of win with a refrain. But yeah, for the most part, I end up banishing this with Prosperity. It just comes up now and then during games 2 and 3 against the D-Barrier. And then 1 Typhon for ball breaking. In the side deck, again, this will probably come to personal preference. I felt as though what worked for me at this event was 3 D-Barrier. Very good against Tempai, Ice Barrier. Well, yeah, there's a lot of decks that this works against, but like, you have to play it. It's just so good. Then 3 Dark Lord no more. I just want to quickly move back to this. There was a time where I used this against a Runic player, and I called Fusion, even though I had a full board, just to cut them out of Fountain. So sometimes you have to play smart with it, but it is very good. You can't pass up on that. And then I'm playing 3 Evenly Match, again for board breaking. I kind of maxed out in board breakers. 3 Dark Ruler, 3 Evenly, 3 Rolling Lockbird, 1 Harpy's Feather Duster, 1 Rivalry of Warlord, and 1 Tam Tam for time. So I'm not entirely sure what I would cut. I would think maybe I could cut. I would probably maybe an Evenly Match or a Dark Ruler no more for the Elegy moving forward. But for now, this is what I played. This is what worked. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys.